The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
You're live.
Welcome to the Doctor's Opinions. I am so excited to be here, and I am your amazing host, Professor Jamie Lynn, on the Doctor's Opinions. And tonight, the fun topic is online dating stories. So a little about me. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and behavior analyst. I am not practicing psychotherapy, so that's the disclosure, of course. These are just simple, fun stories and strategies and discussions with Armed Radio Show. So thank you so much for having me. And let's talk a little bit about online dating. I can start with myself, and I've got some guests that are chimed in, so thanks for joining. I am a single mother of 4 beautiful children, one severely disabled. I am the author of Hope for Autism and the founder of Hope for Autism Foundation, so side note on that. And that's kind of like a big pill to swallow when you're trying to online date and go online in this changing age and time of how do I find a mate? You know, if you're divorced, if you're single, if you're a parent of a child with a disability, if you're rich, if you're poor, if you're pleasing on the eyes, if you're a variety of different things, if you're gay, if you're straight, if you're bi. So online dating, in my experience, has been very interesting as a single mother of 4. I haven't been very successful, obviously. I am still single, so... but it's been definitely an experience, and I've got some crazy stories from, obviously, men not looking like their picture when I show up, to them looking like their picture but not being so nice. So those are some of those infamous stories that we have on online dating where you don't look like your profile, or you are dishonest and say you're something when you're really not. And obviously, when you're in a bracket of looking maybe pleasing on the eyes, it becomes a little frustrating. So I don't know how to say that, but so online dating, you know, there's different profiles. There's Tinder, there's Bumble, there's this really funny new one called, I think it's called Sugar Daddy, where a woman can sign up and put in their profile the desired amount of money they want a man to make. And they've got a new one, Inner Circle, where you can invite people that you know on Facebook. I'm so surprised, honestly, that Facebook hasn't had a online dating app, if you will. I know there's fan pages for single people. I belong to some really cool ones for parents with disabilities, but I'm surprised that they haven't actually come out with a platform. So I could start there with some of those platforms. And Tinder is the funny one, because most people know in the online dating world that Tinder is the hookup site. Tinder is the one that you go on where if you just essentially want to have sex or get laid, or you want to have a friends with benefits, and you learn all those terms when you have, you know, young children. They have the FB, what is it, friends with benefits, FWB, and they use all of the little euphemisms to describe things that you find on Tinder. I like the emojis on Tinder because they go on there to just have casual sex for the most part. And my favorite is the emoji with the splash sign and the mouth sticking out. You'll have fake profiles, especially on Tinder, where you've got guys that look like they just want to like smack a woman and get into some S&M stuff. And so Tinder, I know, at least in the older dating world, my age, I'm 40, we know that site as the one to where you want to go on and just have fun or have casual sex. We can have a whole conversation about that, like what's going on with society and online dating, that there's an actual site you can just go on so you can find somebody to have meaningless sex with. But apparently Tinder's it. I have gotten data, interestingly enough. I'm writing a book on Viagra and online dating. It's almost done. It's an exciting book. I can't say the name because it has a bad word in it. But when I was taking data at a Ty Lopez conference, it was really interesting because some of the younger guys really liked Tinder, and they felt like Tinder found them some meaningful relationships. So geographically, as well as demographically, there was a difference in the dating site. So my age, when we were talking about Tinder, as I mentioned, it's usually for hookups compared to maybe other ones like eHarmony or Match.com. Oh yeah, I forgot Plenty of Fish. But the younger generation, some of those guys at the Ty Lopez conference were talking about finding actually quality women on Tinder. So that's interesting that I think depending on the age bracket you ask, and if you're looking for online dating, are you looking for a meaningful relationship? Are you looking for just something casual? What's your agenda? I'm going to check some comments because I've got some really cool ones about people meeting online. They met on AOL. They've got some cool comments on whatever your situation is, to be honest from the start. That way you know what you're getting into, and the start of the game's no lies. That's it. Totally great comment and wonderful point. Going back to my story, my most famous story from online dating was this guy looked really great. He was a lawyer. He was very successful. I always talk to them over the phone before I go out with them. We can talk a little bit about the process. I do have that written down here to cover. But when I showed up, God bless his soul, he was like 300. And that's okay. I'm not being judgmental. But just for me, he wasn't honest. His headshot was awesome. A couple of his pictures were full body, and he looked good then, but they were obviously older. I think there's a term for that. It's called catfishing. Yeah, when you catfish somebody. I don't think I've ever catfished anybody. I think I look like my pictures online. And for many of my followers, thanks for not judging me. I know most people know me as the Hope for Autism woman, but I am single, and I do try to balance my life and my work and my profession with being able to go out. So I'm not on Tinder. I am not on the one where you just go out and get laid. I actually have a profile on Bumble, so I could talk about Bumble. I've met some pretty nice guys, and I've gone out with some good gentlemen. As I mentioned, I talk to them first, get to know them. For people like me, it's a little bit harder to date, being single and having children, and especially one that's disabled. So not like I'm a great catch. I think it's been interesting because I've had some guys that I've matched with on Bumble where I'm very out there and open, that I'm looking for something long-term, a commitment. I don't know if I call it a soulmate. I think we have different soulmates, and I don't know if that's appropriate. We could talk about that maybe if somebody wants me to. But on the Bumble site, I've gone out with some guys, and I've been up front, and they've been honestly up front with me too. Is like, some guys don't want to date a woman that has children. They don't want, let alone to date somebody that has a child with a disability. Men oftentimes are intimidated by women of intelligence, so that's another factor that I personally have to deal with. And I don't know about other women. If you guys are on and want to share some stories, that would be great about your experience. I definitely know it's a different experience being a man dating online versus a woman. I've had some great guy friends tell me what it's like for them. And interestingly enough, their stories vary so far and few between. My one guy friend who's been dating online, he's a really good looking guy. He's like 6'4", pleasing on the eyes. He says that he can get laid every night of the week if he wanted to, and that it's super easy for him. He says he can basically have whatever he wants. Then I have another guy friend who I think is really good looking. He's 6 foot. Has his stuff together, honestly, more than the other guy. And he says it's very difficult. So part of me thinks it's about personality and what you're putting out there, and what exactly your vibe is, and how that's conveyed, whether it's by picture or it's by your conversation over the phone or the first date, things like that. And my experience as a woman, honestly, is that I think I could pretty much have sex any night of the week if I wanted to. I'm not like that, so it's not my MO. And not that I'm judging women that are like that. I think that's a great conversation too about our day and age. It is 2018. Where does time fly? But looking at the new day and age where women, we can be promiscuous. We can, if we want to not have a committed relationship, and essentially like the topic at hand on online dating is have a different man at every different night of a week, or you could have two different guys multiple times a night of the week. The fact that you can be with men now at this day and age and be honest with them. I have been in situations where I've gotten caught in a bind where I've gone out on dates with a couple different guys at the same time, and they don't care. They don't mind that you're dating other men. Some care if you're, having sexual relationships. Some don't care. So that's, I think, a very fascinating time in our society when it comes to dating and online stories, for how that goes. I'm going to check in with some of the comments and see. Let's see. I would like to date a man that is all for not vaccinating kids and anti-fluoride, anti-circumcision, open-minded. I have other things. I get it. We all have our different needs and our different opinions. And when you end up being in, a mindset philosophy, like many of the professionals and friends and family I surround myself with, where we're what we call awake to the world, right? Like, we're conscientious about what we're eating, what we're putting in our body. Obviously, the government and the way that things like that are being controlled. How do you find your perfect match with that? And then you've got other people on the other end of the spectrum that are completely oblivious to modern society or things that are impacting us, and they just want to get drunk and high. I've seen on the dating profiles, are actually kind of funny. I've seen, like the marijuana sign, or I love the infamous 420 friendly. Anybody know where 420 came from? 420? Why marijuana ended up being that particular number. I think that there is an actual explanation if somebody wants to share that with me, because I like seeing it on the profiles when I'm scrolling through. You see marijuana plants, you see glasses of wine, you see beer. And so on the other end of the spectrum, how do you filter out when you're online dating your individual preferences? Match.com and eHarmony, I personally didn't think they worked. I tried them. I had my own experience with them. Many of the people that I know have tried them. Kids gathered at 420. What does that mean, Darcy? I'll come back to that. But, being able to filter out your different profiles, whether you drink, whether you smoke, whether you're health conscious, whether you're spiritual, whether you're religious, political views, how are you supposed to separate the way that we date and our preferences that we have, when most of our dating sites are like this: swipe, 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 and all you're looking at is how they look. It's very rare when people put like heartfelt effort into your dating profile, and like I said, they'll put emojis. I find those hysterical, just like all these different emojis that you read through, and being able to decipher and tell what a person's like from online dating. So let's see. Online dating odds are good, but the good odds are, oh no, that comment went away, are be careful. All right. Thanks, Ryan. Yes. Let's talk about the odds of online dating. So this is the doctor's opinion, and I am Professor Jamie Lynn, and interestingly enough, here doing our radio show. Hey, Dr. Kubi, could you tell us the statistics? I'm going to get the statistics for you guys on online dating. Can you pull up our book that we have and share with us some of our statistics on the odds of online dating? I've met one guy I dated for a while. It didn't end well at all, but I was able to date somebody for a while long term. So I do know offhand, geographically, dating is, whether your odds are in your favor or against your favor, vary based on the city that you live. So Dr. Kubi is going to look those up for us. But I know LA is like one of the worst. You've got San Francisco, right? San Francisco, We've got New York, so they're Miami. I think they're mostly your metropolitan areas. You got them?
Yeah.
Okay. What are they? Oh. All right. Number one predictor of relationship success is being reliable and a source of real support during tough times. This is very insightful. Thank you. Less than 10% of long-term relationships start in a bar or a club. So that's fascinating, right? Less than 10% start in a bar or a club. Ironically, my ex-husband, I met him in a bar. It was actually a bar club. It was the Maya in downtown LA. That wasn't successful, was it? So less than 10% of relationships are found in a bar or club. So what does that leave us? It leaves us meeting sites like maybe churches, clubs that are outside of drinking. But the worst cities to find love, but good for hookups, New York, LA, and Miami. Shocking. The best cities to find love and bad for one-night hookups, Colorado Springs, that's interesting, Fort Worth, San Antonio. Huh. Think it's because they're conservative? We can have that conversation about whether they're conservative or liberal. 64% of people are looking for someone they have something in common with. And 60% of female Tinder users say that they are looking for a match, not a hookup. That goes back to my conversation about Tinder. Most guys say Tinder is for hooking up. And 60% of female surveys said that they're on Tinder, but they're not looking for a hookup. But that still leaves the 40%. Right? So let's go back to demographics. So you think, Dr. Kubi, that it's because of conservatism? Because my mind immediately went to when we're looking at successful odds of online dating and New York, LA, and Miami being the worst to find love, and areas like Colorado and San Antonio, to me was culture, not necessarily politics. So it's a mix. And also mindset. So the mindset philosophy, are you okay? The mindset philosophy when it comes to online dating, so if we want to talk psychology, so disclaimer again, I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, but this is not advice as a clinician, is the mindset that we have. So I think if you live in New York or LA or Florida, something about the mind, the rat race, the chaos, the unlimited supply, we have a mindset that maybe there's something better than or something good enough or not good enough. That in metropolitan cities, you're constantly surrounded by people. You think that maybe that particular individual you are going out with, your mind's on like maybe there's somebody better. I definitely think there's a correlation between your activities and your culture. So in those metropolitan cities, when you're dating, you're not like Colorado or Texas going outside. You're not riding horses. Maybe you're not mountain biking. Your priorities are on being outside. So I think that the mindset philosophy looks at that. It could also be religion. You see a difference in religion and spirituality in metropolitan cities compared to rural cities or cities that have more outdoor activities or more close-knit communities. There is a decline in religion if you're not familiar. Religion is on the decline. Christianity is at its all-time low. The statistics used to be that America was mostly Christian. I believe that statistic is still accurate, but that there is definitely a decline. So when you take things like online dating and that it's completely acceptable and normal to just go online and swipe away, and looking at the person's physical nature as opposed to their match, right? Then your mindset philosophy is going to be on who looks good, what do I prioritize in my life, that I can just swipe like I'm in a candy store picking out my match. And I think that also gives you a sense that there's something out there that if you're not happy with the person that you're with. Hey, what are some of those other stats that I can start sharing? Do you have other things I can share? So, some tips for online dating while we pull up some other things to share. FaceTime is really cool. You can FaceTime with somebody before you go out. I know that there's a lot of skepticism when you're a woman. Excuse me, when you're a woman, not when you're women.
Similar values.
Similar value. So let me finish this thought. Okay, thanks. So similar. See, I got sidetracked. What was I talking about? Help me. What was I talking about? Tips. Thank you. I was talking about tips. So tips for online dating. Talk to the person, whether it's by phone. I definitely encourage FaceTime. So you really get a sense of knowing somebody by hearing their voice, having some kind of reciprocal conversation, text message. And I know plenty of people that online date that just do text. They just simply text and they set up a coffee date. Some people go like all in and they set up a dinner date and they show up for an event. Like I've had friends go out to concerts or museums, and I think that's like super brave. With looking at being able to like filter out, is this person scary or am I going to get along with this person? So more stories. You want me to tell more stories about my own experiences? All right, I will tell more stories about my experiences with online dating. So I travel a lot. Most people know I travel around the world, and I have a pretty cool story about dating online. As a matter of fact, I just talked to him a couple days ago. So when I was in Hong Kong, I use my dating app. It's also a fun way to meet people. I've met amazing friends, guys that I've never ended up being romantic with or an interest to date. But I, was in Asia and met up for coffee when I had a break, and he was a French expat. So I also learned a lot about the culture of Hong Kong, as well as was able to have coffee with a really nice, hot-looking guy. If he's watching, you know who you are. And was able to have a really great connection. And I had no idea that there were so many French people, or what they call expats, living in Asia. So online dating can be a useful tool as well to just learn about a place that you're at when you're traveling and making new friends. I've seen profiles online that show the text saying, just here to make friends. I don't know how well their matching ability is if somebody's on there just trying to get some, but so that's like a cool story. When I was in Hong Kong, I met a French friend of mine and we've stayed in touch. I was in Taiwan and same thing. I met a American gentleman and we became friends. Mind you, it's not like I'm sleeping around, if that's what you guys want to know about my stories. But you can make friends, and so I met an American friend in Taiwan. Do you guys want to know horror stories? Horror stories? Oh, online horror story dating. Does anybody want to tell me one of theirs before I chime in on one of mine? I dated a guy from Match for about 2 years. I got sick of all the drama with him and his ex, totally. I met my 6.5-year strong relationship in a bar. That's awesome. When I was dating women, they always got scared that I was raising a type 1 diabetic. I get that. Come on, guys. Tell your stories. Telling all of mine. Interesting statistics. Even though I will not attempt online dating again, waste of time. I like your laugh. It was cute. Thanks, Joe. I'm trying to think about online horror stories. I haven't had any online horror stories for dating. I've definitely had odd dates where I've showed up for coffee and it was completely awkward and difficult. That was complicated. So how about self-talk when it comes to online dating? So if you want to create a dating profile and you're single, what's the best way to do that? So obviously honesty, and take recent pictures, take them from different angles. You want to be upfront with what your physique looks like, from whole body shots to your face, and then different scenes. Again, be honest. Honest is huge because you don't want to be dishonest. And tell about yourself. What are your interests, since values are the most preferred thing when you're finding a partner. And Dr. Kubi, will you come join me so I can have some more stimulating conversation? Thank you. And in your profile, what you like, what you don't like. That is something I highly recommend, is things that are a turn off, because then you eliminate what it is that you're not looking for. Just get it out of the way right off of the top. If you have children, definitely include if you have children. If you want children, I have found during my dating profile, there are other men out there that don't want children, that either have children of their own or don't have children. So again, what are your wants? What are your dislikes? Hi.
Hi.
So this is Dr. Kubi.
Hi, everyone.
Have you ever online dated?
Not really.
No?
No, I'm a more like long-term person.
Okay.
But
you're also really young.
Yeah.
You're 23, so I think online dating depends. Move this down. Online dating really depends about your age, and you're also from Ecuador. You're from a different country.
Yeah, it's a different culture. So, for example, in South America, you don't see much online dating.
Okay.
Yeah, people go, if they want to hook up, they go to a club or a bar.
So they like to hook up and just have random sex in other countries.
Yeah,
too?
they say that we are conservative, but that's not the real thing.
Who says you guys are conservative?
People have a lot of sex.
Latins. I think of Latins, and I think of party. We like to have sex.
If
drink,
you want to have some
naked.
fun, go to South America. You will see.
So you personally haven't online dated?
Nope, not really.
Would you ever online date?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe I don't have the necessity right now, but I've heard a lot of cool stories on online dating, and I think that's another option of you want to have some fun today, or there's now really scientific studies that are being taken in consideration when they are building the online datings. For example, Match.com hired Helen Fisher, who is really famous on the brain chemistry, and she's an anthropologist, and she works with the highest and top psychologists in the couples area. So she made an assessment test for personalities for Match.com. So now, if you want a match for a long-term relationships, now online dating can help you. It's not only for hookups.
Yeah, but we talked about that earlier. I've tried Match.com, and I don't know if algorithms and necessarily computers can make the best match for you. They can't filter out chemistry sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. That's always it's important, the experiential aspects, and in relationships most of the time is trial and error. So
Trial and error.
Yeah.
Are we
So
talking?
yeah, have trial and error before you commit.
Okay.
If you're looking for a long-term relationship, and look in the right places, because for example, if you see there's a correlation between the cities that are more famous for hookups and not for long-term relationships. There's a correlation between that and the amount of clubs and how they are known because of parties, bars, clubs, different things. So it's also trying to find the people in the right place. So for a long-term relationship, yeah, going to a religious group is a good option, or to more like conservative places because they are in the more long-term relationship mindset.
Oh, they have Christian Mingle. Is it Christian Mingle or Christian? No. Yeah, they have something on where you have different faiths that you can online dating. Actually, I have a hysterical story on the Christian dating app. So this is actually when I was married. A group of us went down to a local country bar. Mm-hmm. It's Toby Keith's in Rancho Cucamonga. It closed down. Sorry, Toby. But so we're all there. We're all having fun. It's karaoke night. You know, lots of partying and lots of drinking going on. And we were a group of women. So this guy comes up and he's totally like, "Hey, ladies!" Like he was, you know, drunk. And I'm super friendly. Most of my friends are super friendly. And so we're talking to him and we're like, "What are you doing?" Like, he's like, "I'm on a date." And we're like, "You're on a date? What are you doing talking to us?" He's like, "She's in the bathroom." And me being curious and like, "Well, what dating site did you meet on?" He's like, "Christian Mingle or Christian.com or whatever it is." That was you met on a Christian dating site. And you're drunk and you're hitting on other women while she's in the bathroom. So I thought that was hysterical. What do you think about that?
That's actually a really cool story. But the thing is actually deciding what you wanna do, right? If you wanna hook up, just decide and find someone good for a hookup. If you want a long-term relationship, decide and try to find someone for that. Because there's people with different intention in these online datings. There's people.
But you know what? I find when you push hard, and I think that's why I don't really online date anymore. Is when you're pushing for that, you don't really find it. You know, I get the power of intention, and I get like putting things out into the universe. But when it comes to online dating, I don't know if it's perfected in terms of actually creating what you want. I feel like the more I tried online dating, the worse it got for me, and it actually turned me off to even wanting to date. Okay. Let's see. Howdy, cutie. Dr. Cutie. Actually, I'm Dr. MILF and this is Dr. DILF.
But I'm not a dad yet.
I said, dude, I'd like to. Not me. So, disclaimer, he and I travel a lot together. A lot of people see us and they want to know if I'm with him. I have been accused a lot of being a cougar. Do you know what a cougar is?
No.
Women that like younger men. Do you think I'm a cougar? What?
That's too private to be public.
I'm completely transparent. You know, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not transparent. Like, I don't think I'm a cougar. I just meant in terms of me and being single and dating and what my own agenda is. Okay, let's talk about that. Can you help who you fall in love with? I'm asking a question. Can you help who you fall in love with?
What? You're asking me?
No,
I thought that you were asking the audience.
Okay, I could ask the audience. But I'm asking you. It's the doctor's opinion. I want the doctor's opinion.
What's your question again?
Can you help who you fall in love with? Darcy's on here. My friend, Darcy's boyfriend is 10 years younger than her. They've lasted 6.5 years. My kids give me a hard time all the time if I date younger. Can you help who you fall in love with?
Could I help?
¿Quieres decir en español?
Yeah, but I understand what you're doing.
Can you help who you fall in love with? If somebody's 10 years older than you or 10 years younger than you, or like, what's the infamous Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher? They were like almost 20 years apart. So dating younger or dating older, can you help who you fall in love with?
Well, not a matter of age. Most of the times it's just deciding what you want. The thing with age is that sometimes not for love, it's being a gold digger or just having fun.
Ain't nothing but a gold digger, and I'm messing with a broke.
So that's why the intention is important, not because we're being pushy on what we want, it's because we're deciding on what we want. So if you want a long-term relationship and you want a person with these values or with this vision of life or with this kind of goals, it's not being pushy to find that person. It's just having the intention of or decision of what you really want. Then just try to find, and that sometimes requires trial and error.
How do people really know what they want, though? So our topic is online dating. How do you really know what you want? And that's actually a great thing when it comes to creating online dating profiles, like saying what you want. But the truth is, and you and I both know this, you're a clinical psychologist, and I've been a marriage and family therapist for almost 2 decades. How do you really know what you want? Because sometimes I feel like I don't know what I want. I mean, I could write it down on paper. Like, obviously, I want somebody I'm physically attracted to. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I want somebody that has the same values as me when it comes to, but then you have to define values. Like, am I spiritual? Am I religious? Am I an entrepreneurial? Am I a philanthropist? Do I like country music? I ride motorcycles, how do you really match up values and what you like and what you don't like, or like guns and political parties?
It's basically what's important to you. Happier.
Says who?
So what's important for you?
For me?
Yeah.
I'm getting put on the spot. I thought this was supposed to be the doctor's opinions.
Yeah.
What's important for me? Humor. Being funny. Having a strong sense of integrity. Being ethical. Saying what you mean and doing what you say. But at a fundamental level, too, like things that are important to me are vaccine injury awareness. I'm pro-gun. I'm a hardcore Republican, libertarian mindset. I mean, that's what I mean. How do you really know what you want or what your values are? Because we're so complex. I'm complex. I mean, I know what I want. I like stability. I like a best friend, somebody I could talk to, but, intellectual, but spiritual. Mm-hmm. But we're complicated human beings. What do you want?
What I want?
Yeah.
Or what's important for me?
Yeah.
Well, for me, in what sense? In work or in for love, for relationship?
But that's my point. Work or for love. So we all work, right? We have to make a living. Mm-hmm. And then we want love. So, and then you say it's values. Organize that thought process for our listeners.
Yeah. What's important for you in an area? For example, for me, in work, it's important to have someone that is loyal to me. So,
don't you want that in love too?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, but I try to make it personalize it in different areas of my life. That's my own process. And for example, in my work, is someone is always loyal. That if I know that if I screw up something, not because I had the wrong intention, but because it happens sometimes, they will have my back. Mm-hmm. And the same with me. If they screw up something, not with bad intention, I will get their back. So, and then there are values that we can share in different areas of our life. For example, in love, for me, it's really important to have someone loyal by my side. But there are people that are okay with an open relationship.
But that's right. Okay, so I want to talk about that open relationships, especially when it comes to online dating and having open relationships, because that's a whole other topic. But again, what if we took the same work model, like you said, what we value in a professional relationship? Wouldn't that be duplicated or modeled in a love relationship too? Because I think that I would say the exact same things. That what I'm looking for in an employee, or if I were an employee myself, the type of relationship I would want in a work environment would pretty much look exactly the same that it looked like in my love life.
But for example,
or if I were an employee.
For me, I can tell you the difference. In work, I want someone energetic by my side, someone that can push me over my limits.
Research shows it's the same in couples, remember?
No, but
in love.
But in couples, for example, I look for someone that can bring me more in a peace mode, in a restful mode than being energetic. So that for me is important. There are some values that you can share in all the aspects of your life, but there are some values that you look for your relationship. Or, for example, I asked my uncle once why he married my aunt, and he told me, well, I married her because I knew that she was gonna be a good mother, a sweet and a present mother for my kids. Okay. So that's was the most important thing for me. That was the main value for him in our relationship. And if you see him working, he's always like energetic, selling, and that kind of stuff. And when he goes home, he wants to rest, and he wants a partner that can help him get into that state.
Okay. So that's a nice case study.
Yeah.
So let's go back and talk about open relationships. Anybody on here have an open relationship? So we define an open relationship as when you're committed to somebody or have a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife, and you are allowed to be open and sleep with other people. Do you know anybody that's had that? Me too.
Yeah.
You share your story first.
Well, it's pretty confidential.
Okay.
But because I promised that I wouldn't tell, but
can't see your face. The mic is covering that handsome young Ecuadorian face of yours.
So, for example, people that usually go a lot to clubs, when they try to hook up with someone and the other person wants a long-term relationship, they tell them up front, hey, I'm used to being in clubs, I'm used to hang out a lot, and if you want to be with me, you have to you need to have present that I will be with other people. Mm-hmm. So I have like 3 of my friends do that, and occasionally there are women that tell them that they are okay with that because they do the same, and sometimes not. So I can tell you those 3 close cases for me.
So here in the United States, we call it the lifestyle. Have you ever heard that term?
Yeah.
The lifestyle. So lifestyle is code word or incognito for being able to have open relationships or clubs that you can go to where essentially they have orgies or swingers, to where you go and there's an intention with your partner that you're going to be finding another couple to swing with, or you're going to engage in a organized activity of sex. So, and interestingly, they're clubs. You can join them. I have a funny story. When I was married, I was outside doing gardening work, and my neighbor drove by. He's a pretty good looking guy, sheriff. Interestingly, in law enforcement, there's a lot of swingers in the lifestyle. You'd be surprised by profession where you find the swingers and the people with open relationships. So I'm doing the lawn, and of course I'm bending over, and I hear a whistle, and I turn around, and he's like, hey, and I just think he's kidding, because it's friendly. You're just like kidding around with each other. And he knows I'm married and I have young children. And I'm like, how's it going? He's like, good. I'm just getting back from Victoria's Secretions. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, Victoria's Secretions, ever heard of it? You want something from there? And it's like, it totally took me back. I was like, no? What are you talking about? I actually thought that was kind of funny. Instead of Victoria's Secrets, he called it Victoria's Secretions. So I was like, and he's like, we're going to have a party. You and your husband want to come? And I'm like, what kind of party? Because now at this point, I get what he's talking about, right? And he's like, just you and your husband come and check it out, And I looked at him, I said, no, thanks, I don't swing that way. Get it? Swingers?
Yeah.
I don't swing that way. I don't bat for that team. So, I mean, a lot of people have judgment around open relationships or being able to, engage in that, or like one night stands? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's just finding people with the same mindset. If you want to do something, you need to find people that would get along with it.
What do you think differentiates a human being? I mean, we both have, formal education in this. Like, what do you think sets apart a human? And for those listening, some may have thought it and some may have acted on it, that, I'm committed, I'm in a relationship, but damn, I really want to be with that other person, or I don't know if I can stay faithful. What do you think goes on? You think it's like early childhood upbringing, and you think it's narcissism, you think it's societal impressions, you think it's media? Like, what do you guys think it is?
Well, for me, in my experience, important family models in your. For example, I always thought like long-term relationship, because in my family everyone has long-term relationships. But when I'm with my friends, they are always dating and hooking up. I see their families and all their models are to hook up, or they are still hooking up with people even if they have more age. And then we have also the media. But your near influences, like your parents, your friends, can definitely shape you in that way.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate, honestly, and I've seen it from all angles. I've seen people come from really good, solid families, religious families, intact families. I've seen them come from divorced families, agnostic families. I've seen in the lifestyle or swinger world that I've had experience with, not myself personally, but patients and clients, or friends and family.
With Victoria's Secretion.
Yeah. I've got tons of stories, actually. Family, friends, clients. I could share a lot of those stories. But in my experience, what is going on?
With you.
In my experience, professionally and personally, I think it has to do with media. I think it has to do with the television. Now, I'm 40, you're 23. You've grown up with smartphones. I didn't. So we were relying on things like Beverly Hills 90210 was big at my age. Different television shows, different movies that glamorized or made it seem that being with different people was the way to go. Divorce is much more common, and if you're unhappy in a relationship, then you leave that relationship and go to another. Again, we talked about the decline of religion, but in media, you see now, obviously sex is what sells. It's the number one thing that sells. It captures people's attention more. And so this notion of like having sex with different people and being sexually promiscuous or being sexually free has a new philosophy when you've got smartphones. You've got Instagram, you've got Facebook, you've got YouTube, right? So social media influences now have changed the way that we not only date, but the way that we see sex and the way that we see commitment. How are we committing to people? And the interesting thing about open relationships and swinging is I've seen some of those couples have very solid foundations that have lasted a long time. I have a client who's been married for 20 years. I have a client that's been married for 30 years, and they had an open relationship, and they're still in love, they're still best friends, and they attributed that to the mindset of being able to have an open relationship where they were able to talk about, being sexually promiscuous, the boundaries, the rules surrounding it, I guess I kind of said it all, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would say it's the family and the upbringing.
No, it's one of the aspects that I've seen in my experience, and actually the decision is yours. I've seen friends that have a really religious background in their families, and they have more girlfriends or boyfriends than anyone else. So it's basically your decision, what you really want based on on your experience of what you've seen, of what you've read in the newspaper or in the movies or in news, in social media, in your family, but you made the ultimate decision. It's the responsibility of each person on what they want.
When it comes down to science too, coming back full circle on looking at different doctors, different researchers, different clinicians' opinions on sex, are we a monogamous type of mammal? Are we meant to be with one person? And then, is it okay to be with multiple different people sexually? And now that we have this platform of online dating, connecting sexually versus connecting intimately and emotionally. Some people would say that they're one and the same. Some people would say that they're obviously separated. I think that, and somebody, thanks Kimmy for pointing that out here, had mentioned that it's been going on since the beginning of civilization. I'm sorry, but, being heavily from a behavioral analysis background, and he's from Ecuador and the Galapagos, and we're super excited to go because that's where Darwin, did his research. But I imagine humans, before this notion of religion and sin and
you can see that in the Bible.
I'm sure they were all having sex with each other. I have a collection of original works called a Syntopticon that looks at Plato and Socrates and Alexander the Great and all of these different philosophers, and you can even apply that to homosexuality. And we didn't even get to Grindr, online dating. Let's talk about Grindr. But when you look at the historical times of humans, making love to a man was considered a gift from God. That when they were out having, fighting wars and populating as a mammal, right? And engaging in activities with each other, they weren't only having sex and procreating with women. It was very common for the same sex to also have sex with each other. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Oh.
You can see that in archaeology. There's different figures that they found for 1,000 years in different cultures of little statues of people having sex. Same sex, same gender sex, different orientation sex. How do you say them here in the United States? Orgies? Yeah. And those are statues of thousands of years in different cultures. And it was actually funny. I was in a conference with Esther Perel, who's she's now really known because of her studies on affairs and infidelity. And she was in a room full of psychologists and psychotherapists, and she asked us this question. Everyone who has been involved in an affair has been a product. Lift up your hand. All the room.
I have. My husband cheated on me.
All of us
Yeah.
have been in contact with some sort of affair, not only in business but in relationships. So it's really common, and it's a topic that we don't like to talk about because it hurts sometimes, because we think it's unfair or because of conservative beliefs, but it's a reality. That's what the statistic and science is telling us now. Like, affairs are really the rule and not deception.
So that lies the question: is it an affair? And I just always have felt like honesty is the best policy. If you want to like be in a committed relationship with one person, but you're find yourself sexually engaged or wanting to explore, then just be honest with that person. I love you, I'm still in love with you, but look I want to do X, Y, and Z. Or having an open relationship. I don't understand why people can't just be honest about what they want and what they need. That never made any sense to me.
And being honest avoids hurting people.
So it's escape behavior.
Yeah. If you're honest from the beginning of the relationship, I remember that you had a friend that he told you that he's open always to having more relationships, even if he has someone stable at the moment. And if someone wants to be with him, the other person has to accept that he will be in different relationships.
I do have a friend like that. And those women are very comfortable with knowing that he has other women. And they're all honest and open with each other about it.
If you're honest from the beginning, it even will bring you more peace in your life, because you told people what were you gonna do, and you're being truthful with yourself also.
So somebody brings up a point about swapping bodily fluids is very scary, and I think it's important to understand. You know, it's very interesting because condoms are actually on the decline too. Not a lot of people, if you survey and poll the younger generation, they're not using condoms. And I think that also goes with looking at, like, people aren't scared of, for whatever reason, AIDS anymore, HIV, or it's been stigmatized as a homosexual related disease. When you look at, like, genital warts or, you know, herpes, things like that. Actually, I do have a funny story. I did go out on an online date, and it was our second date, so I think he was thinking it was leading up to, you know, being intimate with each other, and he told me that he had herpes. I totally forgot. You want to hear that story?
I will cover my ears.
I don't know. I feel so bad because I just started to laugh when he told me, because you guys that know me know I laugh all the time, whether I'm uncomfortable or I'm happy or I'm nervous. I just default to laughing and humor and doing funny things. So yeah, I started laughing, and I don't think that went over very well. Yeah, that's what I was reading about, swapping bodily fluids and how people aren't using condoms. I would love to take a survey. I know from personal experience, I know from my friends, I know from clients, and from the younger generation, for whatever reasons, they're not using condoms, which to me makes me sad too, because then you're having a lot of pregnancies, and I'm pro-life. I'm not. Wrap it up. I gotta wrap it up. So we're heading towards the end, but this has been fun and quite the experience. As I wrap up, I want to touch on Grindr. Just kidding. Do you know what Grindr is? Grindr is the online app for male men on gay dating. But anyway, I'm just kidding around and being facetious. Secretious. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining our conversation on online dating. And in light of joking, I am Professor Milf, and this is Professor Dilf.
And Professor Dilf will leave you with a cool stat. It's been proven that the average American woman takes like 7 hours to sleep with a man.
Oh, I did read that study.
So, men, if you want to hook up, now you know the stats. It takes only 7 hours.
So schedule a long first date.
If you want to do it quick.
Or call them like I suggested. So thank you, everybody. It has been awesome. I hope we covered all of your inquiries, told some funny stories. If you have any questions, if you want to touch base with us at the Doctor's Opinions, feel free to PM us through Facebook, reach us at Armed Radio Show, and we look forward to you guys joining us in the future. Peace, hope, freedom. So, can we end that broadcast on Facebook Live?
Hotter than a fantasy, lonely like a highway. She's living in a world and it's on fire, filled with catastrophe, but she knows she can fly away.